Malcolm, great to have you back in WA.
Thanks, Wes. It's great to be back. It's been quite some time since I've been over here on any sort of a official capacity, so it's really nice. Things have changed a fair bit, but it looks fantastic.
You're like an old bottle of red. You've aged well.
A lot of people would deny that. They'd say, no, he's aged pretty ordinary, but I am getting on a little bit now. I'm 58 years of age, and a lot of water under the bridge since I won on the Black Horse here in 1982. So, but great memories. Perth hold wonderful memories for me. It was a great time in my life, and one thing about racing carnivals, I looked forward to the Perth Carnival at the end of the year every year. I loved it.
Certainly was the heyday for WA racing back then. We'll talk about it a little bit later on, but the prize money was exceptional. The talent that we achieved, not just from an equine point of view, but also jockeys, trainers, it was the place to be.
Yeah, it was the place to be, and in those days, the Derby over here was worth more than the AJC Derby in Sydney. So if we had, when I say we, TJ's camp, if we had anything standing up after the Spring Carnival, they'd make their way to Perth. Mighty Kingdom, for example, he won in Caulfield Cup, and he run in the VRC Derby, and then he was still standing, and TJ said, oh, we're going to Perth. So he came over to Perth, Kingston Town, the same boat. He won the Cox Plate, then run in the Melbourne Cup, and then he ended up over here, and it was extraordinary that the prize money was so good over here. If you had a horse good enough, this is where you wanted to end up. And the carnival, everywhere else has caught up a little bit, but this was certainly the leader prize money wise in the late 70s and 80s.
And the trainers were here as well.
Yep.
TJ Smith, Bart Cummings, CS Hayes, the top three.
Yeah, the big three, the dominators. They couldn't wait till they got here, and in that brought their stable riders, which were all big names. And I remember a few times in those early years they had an invitation stakes for jockeys over here, and invariably I got an invite, and Brent Thompson, some of the best riders, Roy Higgins, some of the best riders I've ever ridden against would all come over here and compete in an invitation stakes. So it was a great time of the year, and it was a great carnival. A lot of things happening in Perth in those days, and we used to really look forward to it.
Let's talk about Malcolm Johnston growing up in Forbes.
Yep.
What was it like?
Oh, it's great place to grow up and go to school, and I was the eldest of 7, and I loved the country life, and I never had any ambitions whatsoever to go to Sydney. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was very tiny. And when I say tiny, I mean really tiny. I was 14 years of age, and my first trip to Sydney, and this is a true story, my first trip to Sydney, I went down to Penrith Park and I played rugby league. And I was a mad rugby league player. Every Friday afternoon, get home from school, and I'd clean my boots up and get my kit bag ready to go to a football carnival the next day. And that's all I ever wanted to do, was play rugby league. But in those days it was 1970, Wes, and in 1970 it was all weight division. You used to go to a football carnival, get on a set of scales, and they'd weigh you in. They'd put a stamp on your wrist. 4 stone 7s, 5 stone 7s, 6 7s, 7 7s are open. When I went down to Penrith Park and I captained country against City, I was 14 years of age, and the stamp on my wrist was 4 stone 7. 25.5 kilos I was at 14 years of age. The eldest kid I played against in the city side was 9, and I just hammered him, mate. I belted the crap out of him. And I said, well, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, just belt the crap out of 9-year-olds. What an impact I must have had on the game. I scored 2 tries in that particular game, and I went home an absolute hero. Someone said to me when I got home, Malcolm, what position did you play? And I said, wherever I wanted to play, because I weren't going to have no 8-year-old telling me where to go. The very next year they changed it from weight to age, and I went from, as I said, captain of country to not getting a run in any side. So my footy career was done and dusted. My old grandfather, God bless him, come to me, he said, Malcolm, I don't want you to worry about it too much, because what I've gone and done, I've got your job in Sydney on a 3-month trial basis with a bloke called Theo Green to become an apprentice jockey. I said, that's good, Gramps. What do they do? I'd never virtually been on a horse before in my life. I mean, mine is one of those real fairy tale stories. I'd never been on a horse, but in those days, if someone said to you, some member of your family said, there's a chance for you to do something, you just never questioned it, you just went and did it. And I went down there, did that 3 months trial thing, and I just loved it from day one. I mean, absolutely loved it.
How did you react initially when you got told that you'd be going to Theo Green? Did you want to become a jockey?
Not really, no. I thought what I'll do, I'll go down there and I'll do this 3 months apprentice jockey thing, trial, and then I'd go back up to Forbes and hopefully resurrect my footy career. Because I didn't know anything about horses. I'd never been on one virtually, and the only reason I was pushed in that direction was because of my stature. I was so tiny. But I honestly believe everybody's born with a gift, and it's finding that gift within the person and then being in a position to be able to pursue it. God tapped me on the shoulder and said, Malcolm Johnston, you're a jockey, simple as that. And I was lucky enough to find my gift and be at the right spot, right place at the right time, and things just happened from there. Like even today, horses could run for me, and the name of the game is to get a horse to run from A to B in the quickest possible time. That's what it's all about.
It's quite simple, isn't it?
It's simple. It is very, very simple. How I did it, I don't know. But I had a gift where horses would just run for me. Kids ask me today, how'd you do this and how'd you do that? I don't know. I really don't know. It just happened instinctively.
You've been involved in apprentices training, and we go back to Theo Green, who was a master of apprentices, and you'd no doubt now still be able to see those youngsters coming through who you know have got that gift.
Yep. And you know what, Wes, there will never be another Theo Green. He was unbelievable. He had, in a period of time, he had the best jockeys I've ever seen. He had like Gordon Spinks, Johnny Duggan, Ronnie Quinton, myself, Darren Beedman, Jamie Innes. He had, well, between Darren, myself and Ronnie Quinton won 8 premierships. I won 3 premierships. Darren won 7 premierships. So in a period of time there, over 20 years, we won something like about 16 of those premierships between us.
What was his secret?
He was the, you worked hard, he would bend over backwards to help you. He was a beautiful man. He treated every one of us like his own son. He never had a son. He only had one daughter, Sharon, and we were like his boys. And the respect we had for him, we just wanted to be good so he'd be proud of us. And if he told us something, his secret was simple. It was just, you do your work and I'll work as hard as I can for you. And that's how it worked. He was a great disciplinarian. I mean, he was very strict, but very, very loyal, and a better man God never put breath into.
Is the discipline dying?
Yes, yep, without any shadow of a doubt. In our day, kids today, the unfortunate thing about kids today, and it's everywhere, it's not just in our game, but at 17 and 18 years of age, they know everything. And it's very disheartening when you're trying to help a kid and they look at you as if to say, duh. Like, that really irks. We were never ever game to answer our boss back. He was the boss, and sometimes you didn't think he was right, but you never said he wasn't right. But it's really hard this day and age teaching, because it's all about how much you want it And you can see a kid when they come through, they're going to have to make sacrifices. It's all about sacrifices, and we made a lot of sacrifices. I was the leading jockey in Sydney as an apprentice at 19 years of age, and I still was only allowed out one night a week, which was Saturday night, and I had to be in by 12 o'clock, and I was the leading jock in Sydney.